everyone, my name is Meg. This is a new channel that I've created called Meg's Megalithic Microbiome, and I just wanted to start the first video off by talking about my IC story, that's interstitial cystitis, and how I've begun my healing journey, and I'm hoping that this could potentially help someone else. If anyone doesn't know, interstitial cystitis, it's also called painful bladder syndrome. It's basically an umbrella term for a set of symptoms that sort of mimics a chronic UTI, a urinary tract infection. So I first started my journey of IC. I took a round of antibiotics in late October. About halfway through the antibiotics that I was taking, I felt a huge amount of pain in my bladder, and it didn't feel like a normal bacterial UTI that I usually have gotten before. It was kind of a dull, achy pain instead of a sharp pain, but nonetheless I thought it was a UTI. But instead of going to the doctor, I just took apple cider vinegar and D-mannose. That's usually how I have cured my UTI, bacterial UTIs in the past. So I tried that, and it kind of came and went, but it didn't fully go away. It just kind of felt the main part of the pain had gone away. So I thought, okay, I'm good. But then it started creeping, the pain started creeping back in again. I had a weekend in December where I was traveling and I ate out a lot and probably was drinking alcohol more than I usually do. After that weekend, the pain really started, really strong. And at this point, I didn't want to go to the doctors because the antibiotic that I took was sort of felt like the cause of my IC, so I didn't want to go back to the doctor and have something else prescribed, because I'm already pretty skeptical about conventional medicine, so I didn't want to continue taking prescriptions. But after a week or two went by, it felt like there was pain that was rising up to my kidneys, and I obviously know that that's really dangerous, so I thought, okay, I'll go to the doctor. So I went to the same guy that prescribed me the Bactrim, which was the antibiotic that I had taken for some sort of sinus infection, which it didn't even help at all with my sinus infection, so that stinks. He did a urine culture, and he said I have no infection whatsoever, and I was really confused because he said, you probably have cysts, ovarian cysts, and I said, well, I've had cysts before, and this is not what it feels like. I mean, I've had a few UTIs in my life, and this definitely felt like a UTI. And I just felt like he was not believing me whatsoever, which really stunk. So I went back home and I was feeling really distraught because he said I didn't have a bacterial infection, but it felt like I did. But then I started thinking, okay, if I got it during my antibiotic, the broad spectrum antibiotic, then maybe it's a yeast infection in my bladder. I didn't know if that was possible, because after this as well, I started dealing with a vaginal yeast infection, like most women do after antibiotics. They usually get yeast infections. I've gotten that before. So I was thinking, is it possible to have a yeast infection in your bladder? So I decided to, instead of going back to the doctor, I decided to research natural antifungals, just to try it, why not? So I ended up finding a lot about Candida online, and I ended up ordering, it's called Thorn SF 722, I think. It's their antifungal gut capsule, and it has a castor oil derivative, which I use castor oil all the time for like my skin, and I use it for castor oil packs for my period. And actually that's how I believe that I got rid of my cyst, my ovarian cysts 2 years ago, was from castor oil packs. If you haven't heard of castor oil packs, I highly recommend looking them up, because they helped my cysts. So I thought, okay, it's just castor oil basically. So, and taking those, and it helped immediately. The relief was immediate. And so I thought, okay, if this is antifungal and I'm feeling better from it, then maybe it is yeast in my bladder. So I took that for about a week, and it felt like it was almost gone. But then Christmas came around, and I was having a lot of sugar and processed food, probably more wine and things than normal, and it started coming back. And I thought, oh, this is so annoying. Kind of kept coming back. Ironically, I ended up going to the Dominican Republic for New Year's, and my IC pain was so minimal there. I think it was like the sun and preservative-free food, you know, fresh food, lots of sun, and the salt water. So, but then I came back from that trip to a very snowy and dreary Midwest in the US, and things just got really, really bad from there. Yeah. If anyone who's lived in the Midwest ever knows that it's a pretty tough winter in general, but then having this crazy amount of pain in your bladder, constant peeing, you know, it's not, on top of that, this wasn't fun at all. So I decided to, because the pain had gotten so bad in January, this past January, I decided to go to my gynecologist. And obviously I was suffering from yeast infections, a chronic yeast infection. So I thought, okay, she'll help me. So at first she seemed really intrigued by my case. Like, I was like, she told me I was a medical mystery. And she's like, you probably have diabetes. But I was like, I don't have diabetes. I've been incredibly healthy my whole life. I don't know what's going on. And obviously they did more urine cultures, showing absolutely no sign of an infection. But the funny thing is, now I know that urine cultures only catch about 30% of, well, that's only bacterial infections, but you actually can have fungal urinary infections, and also viruses and lots of other things. So the typical urine culture that you get at your gynecologist or doctor's office only covers a really small percentage of the infections that you can have. So now I know. So I went to the doctor a few more times during those few months. It just kept getting worse and worse and worse. But I was basically surviving on my supplements that I was taking. That was the only way I was functioning, getting through the day. At my worst, I was, I'm just going to take a look at this really quick. At my worst, I was peeing about 25 to 30 times a day, peeing every 30, 45 minutes. And the pain level was like at like a 10, 9 or 10. Spending a lot of my days in, well, I worked, and then I would come home and spend the day in bed. And all the weekends in bed with a heating pad. That was the only way that I could function. It was actually on my 25th birthday in March that I went to the doctor one last time. So I had I'll backtrack. I actually had taken 2 rounds of diflucan before this. I had convinced my gynecologist to give me diflucan, and the first round helped quite a bit, but the last day that I got off of it, I had cake to celebrate, and I flared immediately after that. So I convinced her to give me another round of diflucan that was longer, and that didn't help whatsoever. So I was trying to convince them that I had a fungal fungal urinary infection, but they just seemed to not know anything about that. But it was funny because I had searched the internet, and there's a ton of different medical journals and studies done on actually mostly elderly women that are in the hospital, and it's a huge problem in hospitals for the elderly because they have a weakened immune system and they're given a lot of antibiotics. So they all are dealing with really, really severe fungal infections, urinary tract infections, and the doctors know full well about this, but they can't really seem to help them. So it's a huge problem. So it definitely exists, but it's interesting that a gynecologist wouldn't know this exists at all. Birthday, I went, and that was like my last cry for help. That was like my last time. I was like, okay, we'll get some other sort of antifungal like nystatin or something, and then I will take that, and I'll be all good. And she just said, no, you have IC, you have interstitial cystitis, and I can give you, I don't know, Vicodin or some sort of pain medication plus pyridium. I believe pyridium is also a pain reliever, but also I think it alkalizes your urine. So apparently that's what she gives to people with IC, and she wanted to refer me to a urologist and those sorts of things. And I just thought, it just seemed kind of like a death sentence, or, you know, having a chronic illness that's completely unhealable. She said, you can just eat certain things on the IC diet and take this, and this is what you'll do for the rest of your life. And to be honest, I wasn't having any of that. Especially someone who's was incredibly healthy and active. I was just not taking that at all. And I'm all about taking your own destiny into your own hands, and being told by doctors who are apparently really knowledgeable and they have no idea what was going on. It pissed me off so much, and I was so angry. So at that point, after that appointment, I said, okay, interstitial cystitis, I'm gonna go research the heck out of this thing, and I'm also not going to the doctor ever again. Conventional doctors. So I furiously began to research interstitial cystitis, and I realized that it's a huge problem, and there's thousands and thousands of women and a small amount of men that deal with this problem and this condition, and no one's getting help. I mean, doctors are just prescribing things for them, really expensive things that are just masking symptoms, and a lot of times actually these prescriptions are hurting even more, and installations, all these different things. So I debated going to a urologist, but after reading a lot of women's stories about their struggle with IC and getting countless installations and going to the doctors and being poked and prodded, and the doctors have absolutely no idea what's going on, I thought, screw that, you know, I'm just going to figure it out on my own. So I ended up finding a lot of videos on YouTube. Well, not a lot actually, just a few. I found Montreal Healthy Girl and a few others that kind of gave me hope that it could be possible to heal from IC, because I just didn't believe it. I thought, there's no way that I'm not healing from this, that I'm just going to have this the rest of my life. And actually, there isn't that much online about interstitial cystitis. There's quite a lot in medical journals, you know, the mystery surrounding IC. And it definitely exists, but there's a huge mystery around it, and like a lot of people say, it's the silent disease. No one really knows that you're struggling with it, and all the people that have it don't really talk about it because it's embarrassing and it's personal, and it's considered a disability in the US. You can get benefits, disability benefits. So that's how severe it is. But not a lot of people are talking about it. So after I decided to heal myself, the weight and the stress of like having to work with the doctors, having that off, I actually felt like 50% better just that week deciding I was going to heal myself. which I know sounds crazy, but that have like taking that power into my own hands, that stress relief, actually helped me already. So that helped me quite a lot. Also, finding the Facebook groups that I'm on, the Facebook forums, have helped a huge amount. Just moral support. I wouldn't necessarily say that, you know, I'm healing just because of that, because I found most of the, you know, the things that I'm doing pretty easily on the internet. But the support, having the support of people that that are going through the same thing, helps a lot. And I'm only on natural healing and holistic Facebook forums and Facebook groups, because I think it's important just to surround yourself with that positivity, because I was on a few conventional medicine IC groups and websites, and it just sounds really helpless, and people are just taking countless prescriptions and not getting anywhere, which is really, really discouraging. So, root causes. So there can be quite a lot of root causes for IC through my research that I've done. I believe that mine started as an embedded infection, yeast, basically Candida of the bladder. I obviously haven't been fully diagnosed with that, but that's what I believe that my root causes. Not only because antifungals are the only way that I was surviving, natural antifungals were the only ways that I was surviving through my day, but also because it kind of makes sense as well. I had hundreds of antibiotics as a child, and I think that encouraged a lot of yeast overgrowth that I think I already had in my gut, and really itchy scalp, nail fungus, toenail fungus. So I think that already shows that I had a microbiome imbalance. But also, my mom also has had endometriosis, but currently has IC, which I didn't know until a few weeks ago, because people keep things to themselves, and I think it's important to talk about things, because I think it is genetic, because I basically was predisposed to have a damaged microbiome from my mom as well. So I think I was already had a predisposed microbiome from my mom, and also some of the things that I did as antibiotics as a child didn't help this as well. I wasn't breastfed, which is a huge no-no. You should definitely breastfeed your children. At the end of the video, I'm going to talk about what I am doing and the supplements that I'm taking and diet and things for how I'm healing. So another thing I want to talk about is, it's interesting talking about the microbiome. That's what my channel is all about. Basically, what I believe, what I see is in all their autoimmune disorders are caused by a damaged microbiome. It's interesting that most women with IC also have another autoimmune disorder, such as endometriosis, fibromyalgia, Lyme's disease, IBS, celiacs, chronic yeast infections. These are all signs of a damaged microbiome, that your microbiome isn't functioning the way that it should. I mean, your microbiome is essentially your immune system. And it's weakened by our lifestyle, genetics, unhealthy diet, etc. And unfortunately, our body is attacking itself now, realizing that, or because of a weakened immune system. It's also interesting that IC is mostly found in first world countries, and my theory about that is a lot of these immune disorders are only found in first world countries because we're too clean, we use too many antibiotics, we basically don't live as naturally as we should, and so our microbiomes aren't as strong as they should be. They're a lot more weakened because we're not challenged by, we're not sleeping in dirt, we're not thriving with the animals and getting all those allergens and things. So our immune systems are a lot weaker than they would be if we were out in the wild or even just in a more of a third world country, when you're living more symbiotically with nature. So one other thing I want to talk about is I believe that you can heal from IC. Just like you can heal from other autoimmune disorders, and also some people even heal from cancer. So I really do think that if you take things into your own hands, and you have to let yourself believe that you can heal, because as soon as I did that, my whole world changed. And all the things that you can find and all the support that you can find on Facebook and other places is so encouraging, and I want someone else to feel that, because I know how hopeless it feels to have IC and another autoimmune disorder, how hopeless it feels to have this chronic diagnosis and to be told there's nothing that you can do. And also, you can buy thousands of dollars worth of prescriptions just to mask the symptoms. I think that's absolutely ridiculous. I think that doctors these days have gotten so far away from what they used to be, what they should be. Now a lot of times it just seems like they're pumping drugs, because they're paid for it. And that just makes me really, really sad. So I'm also skeptical of some holistic doctors as well. It seems like sometimes they're just trying to sell supplements or expensive tests as well. I haven't been to a holistic practitioner or anything like that, but a lot of women have, and it has really helped them. So I just think you should be wary and question any sort of doctor, that anyone claiming that they can help you or whatever. But I find that most conventional doctors are completely clueless, and having things like installations and taking all the drugs, personally I think is just going to prolong the symptoms. So it seems like there's quite a lot of women that go into remission. So my idea on this is that they've gotten their microbiome mostly in balance, but they still need things like supplements and a really strict diet in order to stay in that balance. So they're not fully healed. But there's also women that are completely fully healed. That is completely true. You can find people on YouTube, Facebook, on the internet. There's so many people that have healed from this. So don't believe that you can't heal. It might be hard, but you can definitely do it. Or at least get in a place where you're, in remission and symptom-free, mostly. But I also think that it's possible to fully heal. You're fully healing your microbiome to the point where it is in full homeostasis, to the fact that you don't need supplements, or you don't need anything to keep you afloat, because your immune system and your microbiome is completely functioning properly. So people can have wine again, they can have, you could go on a binge and eat really badly, and your body corrects itself. That's what your body's supposed to be doing. But usually a lot of women aren't to the point that they can do that, and they're still eating a really strict diet or on a ton of different supplements. But it's a really slow journey. One thing that I've learned through my healing process is it's a very slow healing journey. I used to think that it was going to be pop a pill and in a few days you're going to be better, because that's what it seems like these days you can do. You get a sinus infection, you take an antibiotic, and within a few days you're good. So it seems like that's the way it should have been. So I think I was looking for that quick fix, and it's definitely not going to be a quick fix. So you have to be in it for the long haul. And the good thing is I was already eating plant-based, and I think that's a huge step in the right direction. I was already really, really healthy before I took the antibiotics, so I think that gives me a leg up, and probably why I'm probably healing as quickly as I am. I believe that my microbiome was damaged from quite a lot of things growing up, but being plant-based 2 years prior to having the antibiotics, I think was strengthening my microbiome. So unfortunately, taking the antibiotics completely destroyed that. but it can take up to 2 years to rebuild your microbiome. So you can find that in multiple studies that they've shown that taking 1 round of antibiotics can deforest your microbiome. Your microbiome, just to clarify for everyone, it's in your gut, but it's also everywhere in your body. So you have a microbiome on your skin, in your mouth, on your scalp, in your genital region, on your feet. You're everywhere that you have is a microbiome. What I believe is once you heal your damaged microbiome, you can heal from IC. So basically, there's multiple studies that I'll link down below that have their medical journals that studies showed that women with IC compared to healthy women had significantly lower levels of certain bacteria and possibly yeast than they should have been having. And then they had a way higher level in certain bacteria than the healthy women. So there was a huge dysbiosis in their microbiome. And I think this is a huge key, huge key, that because their microbiomes have been damaged, the pathogens are able to come in and flourish and overgrow. And it's really, really hard to get rid of overgrowth. So I will talk now about what I've been doing to heal myself. So I'm off of the thorn castor oil pills because they made me really constipated. Sorry, TMI. So it wasn't really worth it in that respect. So what I started eating or taking is Pau D'Arco. This is a natural antifungal, antibacterial. It also helps digestion, and I absolutely love this. And it's very cost effective, very, very cost effective. This might be like $10-15, and it lasts me like 5 months. So I highly recommend this to anyone. The thing is, though, that not everyone might have my same root cause, but you can try if you believe that you have Candida as a root cause. What I also started doing is any sort of Candida complex. I just got this one, but it has a lot of yeast killers in it, oregano leaf extract, caprylic acid, that's coconut oil, there's different enzymes, aloe vera leaf. I use my aloe vera all the time, so I recommend investing in a plant as well, much cheaper. Aniseed, black walnut power, reishi mushroom, etc. It's just Candida complex. I don't really take this as much anymore. That's quite potent. I also take vitamin D3. I don't take it anymore now that it's summer, but in the winter I think this is really important to help boost your immune system. I also have been taking, this is Echinacea and gold seal. What I like in it is that there's cayenne. I think the cayenne really helps my bladder and my flares. Yeah, this doesn't help a huge amount, but it every once in a while I take this. Also, another thing is I don't take any prescription medication. I don't take any, I'm off birth control. I do not take any sort of pain medication because studies have shown that that can damage your microbiome, your gut microbiome, which is the exact thing we're trying to heal. So I know it's difficult, but I have CBD oil. This probably isn't the best brand. I just picked one online. I think you need to find one that is not in an oil because I think it's better absorbed. I'm not sure. But I really like my CBD oil. It's not perfect. I still feel pain, but it definitely helps. And then the other thing is this magnesium oil by Swanson. I really, really like this. It helps with constipation, irregularity, and pain if you spray it onto your bladder. But also, a lot of us actually have a lot of calcium floating around our bodies. Like I used to have calcium deposits, like in my like projections of the bone, like calcium deposits. And since taking that, it completely has gotten rid of that, because magnesium and calcium work symbiotically in the body, and if there's too much calcium and not enough magnesium, then the calcium, sorry, I don't know if you can hear me, too much calcium in the body isn't good for you. So, I mean, you need a lot of calcium, but you have to make sure you have enough magnesium as well. You can try some of the supplements. I also eat plant-based, and exercise is really, really important. Sorry, I forgot that. So I also haven't cut out any grains. A lot of people have gone on the AIP diet, the autoimmune protocol, but also keto, and I highly do not recommend doing that. I mean, people have, there have been a few people that have healed from that, but I do not recommend that. I think more people have healed on the plant-based diet. A lot more people have healed on that, because you need the fiber and you need the nutrients, and eating plant-based is actually better for your microbiome, which I will get to in future videos. Obviously eating a small amount of meat here and there, if that's what you eat, is could be fine as well. I prefer to eat plant-based, but going all the way eating paleo or keto with basically all meat and dairy is very, very little fiber, and studies have actually shown that it's does not help your microbiome flourish. And that's exactly what we need right now with our damaged microbiomes if you have IC or an autoimmune disorder. As of today, I go to the bathroom about 10 times a day. I can wait about 3 hours. Sometimes it's only, I have to pee every half hour, randomly in the day, but usually I can wait about 3 hours. I do not recommend holding your bladder. I do not recommend holding your bladder, because it is your body and your bladder are trying to tell you something when it's in pain and you have to pee, is get whatever is in me out of me. There is something overgrowing, there's some sort of infection. Sometimes people still have that pain even when the infection's gone, because they've really irritated the bladder, so it still feels like they need to go. But I still think most of the case that you should pee when you feel it. So I never ever hold my pee. But yeah, I can go about 3 hours now, which is incredible. Makes a huge difference in my quality of life. My pain is about 1 or 2. However, I have pretty bad ovarian cysts now, ever since the antibiotic. Yay! So I'm trying to work on getting rid of those. So right now that's actually the majority of my pain. Plus also I'm still struggling with yeast infections. So I believe once I heal my gut and my bladder, the whole microbiome it's all one microbiome essentially. So that's why it's kind of like the whole body problem. So yeah, I'm still working on healing. I've gotten so much better, and it also makes me feel good that I've taken my healing into my own hands, because I think that everyone can do that, especially with this day and age that we can find so much on the internet and find support groups, and I have access to medical journals. I think that anyone can heal themselves. If you have any questions, you can always reach out to me. And I'm going to be talking a lot about the microbiome on my channel. So I want to help let everyone know about how important the microbiome is, and how any sort of damaged microbiome can lead to these sorts of problems. That's my story. I'm doing a lot better. I'm hoping by the end of the year I'll be symptom-free, but you also just have to be patient and keep going. Thanks guys, and I will be talking more about the microbiome in more videos.